Hi everybody and welcome back to week 4 of our Rivercrest Resilience program. This week we'll be exploring the idea of thinking traps and what we can do to avoid them in order to boost resiliency. Once again, recapping, our idea of resiliency is centered around the idea of being buoyant, able to float in the middle of life's challenges and changes. It's our ability to bounce back from negative experiences and to be able to grow through this process. This week we're exploring the idea of thinking traps, which are common traps that we can fall into when we deal with problems or challenges and how we can address these. Thinking traps commonly occur when we are run down, when we're stressed and overwhelmed, and this is particularly in the case of children. So we're going to explore 5 key thinking traps that we fall into. The idea of mind reading, the idea of me, the idea of them, of catastrophizing, and the mind trap of helplessness. So the me thinking trap deliberately talks about you being the sole cause of the problem. You're the reason for the setbacks, and that in the process you cause harm to other people. And as you can see, the me thinking trap links strongly back to self-explanatory styles and internal and external ways of explaining problems. Them is the flip side of the me thinking trap, where we blame other people and other circumstances for the sole causes. It's not us, it's about them. There's that blame and that shifting of responsibility. Helplessness is another thinking trap that we fall into. It's the idea that negative events are going to impact all areas of our life. It's global. We have no control, and that it's going to impact our thinking, our actions, our behaviour, our relationships. Mind reading is another key thinking trap that we often use, and it's our ability to assume that we know what others are thinking or feeling, that we can read their mind, that our interpretation of an event therefore means that it's truth or fact. In the context of kids, it might be understanding that they think they understand the situation, they understand how other people feel, when the actual reality may be different. And the final thinking trap that we're going to explore is catastrophizing, which in essence is ruminating about the irrational worst case outcomes of a situation. And this is one that we want to dive a little deeper into, this idea of catastrophizing, that when things go wrong, we lose perspective and we start to ruminate, which is just that idea of worrying, going round and round in a circle about what is going to happen, what's the worst case that's going to happen. So in order to address catastrophic thinking, the key research from the University of Pennsylvania says that we need to challenge it when it occurs. So this is a quick routine that you can build into your family life. It can be one that you do orally, it can be one that you write down and reflect on. But the first thing to do is to identify or to pick a situation where you want to challenge catastrophic thinking. Perhaps it's at school, perhaps it's a friendship thing, perhaps it's at home or at work, perhaps it's something that you need to work through as a family. The second step is to identify the worst case scenario. And so the important part about catastrophic thinking is it's not an absence of worry or fear, but it's saying it's okay to actually identify the worst case scenario. The trick is that we don't want to sit there and ruminate on that for a long period of time. So if there's something that's stressed or worrying and you start to have catastrophic thoughts, identify it and label the worst case scenario before moving on. So after identifying the worst case scenario, we do the inverse and we identify the best case scenario. And this teaches kids to look for, okay, there are negative aspects to the outcome, but what is the best case scenario? If everything was to go well and the situation was to be resolved or be successful, what is the best possible outcome? Fourth step is to weigh up the worst and the best case scenario and to be realistic. What's the probable outcome? In light of the worst and the best, what's the most likely thing that will occur? So the last step is really about empowering students and us to actually do something about the problem. We've had the catastrophic thought, we've identified worst, best, probable outcomes, but what can we actually do about it now? So this is a great and a really important part to model with our kids. What steps can you do to address the problem? What action can you take to make a difference? Well, thank you for being a part of the Rivercrest Resilience program. We hope over the month that you've had an opportunity to reflect as a family and to look at some of the thinking traps, the gratitude elements, and to look at how you can continue to foster resilient children and resilient families.